Good evening and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. We're going to begin in Hoboken, New Jersey. That, of course, with a busy train station closed now for business. That after a New Jersey Transit train crashed into it this morning. It happened during the peak of morning rush hour. One person is dead, scores more injured. Let's go now to Ray Ramundi. He is live on the scene here and he joins us with more.
The state medical examiner's office has identified the victim in this morning's train crash as 34-year-old Fabiola Bitar de Krum of Hoboken, New Jersey. NTSB officials are now here on the ground and they are waiting for contractors before they are able to get to the 3 locomotive cars to start this investigation. This video showing the moments just after a New Jersey Transit train crashed right into this Hoboken station. Passengers in a daze and in disbelief, a morning commute turning into a disaster.
It just collided, and I saw a couple gentlemen bleeding, and some people couldn't walk, some people were like covered in I guess debris.
This passenger in the first car of the train that careened into the Hoboken station just after 8:30 this morning. Eyewitnesses say the train was traveling at an incredible speed as it approached.
The train didn't stop. I mean, it just didn't stop.
It went over the bumper block, basically through the air, traveled about another 40 feet, came to a rest when it hit the wall.
NTSB will gather and collect critical evidence to determine the cause of the crash. The train slamming into the station causing major structural damage, bent and twisted steel, debris everywhere. Over 100 people injured. Authorities say 2 others with critical injuries.
Bumps, bruises, some walking wounded, some lacerations, and fractures as well.
The woman killed was not a passenger, but standing on the platform.
We have engineers that are examining the structural integrity of the building now. We have no estimate as to when the terminal will be able to be reopened.
And the train engineer has been identified as Thomas Gallagher. NTSB officials do confirm that he has been released from the hospital and he will be interviewed. And we also understand he is cooperating with law enforcement. His account will be crucial in determining why the train approached at such a high speed. Ray Ramundi, ABC News, Hoboken, New Jersey. Back to you.
Okay, Ray, thanks. Now, I want to go to 5 One's Carolyn Fortino. She is in Nanuet, and that's in Rockland County, where commuters are now dealing with a transportation nightmare.
Well, that's right. We're at the Nanuet train station where there is sure to be a commuter nightmare during this evening's rush. All of the people who normally board the train here in Rockland County to head into New York City are going to need to find a new way to get home. The New Jersey Transit train originated in Spring Valley in Rockland County before it slammed into the Hoboken train station during the morning rush. That line is now closed between Hoboken and Secaucus, meaning that all of the people who boarded the train in Rockland now need to find a new way to get home. Kevin Weinberger is from Valley Cottage and takes the train from Nanuet every day. He was on the train that crashed.
I was in the second train, and luckily it seemed like everyone in my train was okay, but we noticed like outside there was like a lot of flashes, and then the ceiling kind of came down on top of the first train, and we knew like this is pretty serious. Metro
North is providing bus service from the Tarrytown train station in Westchester to Nanuet, Spring Valley, and Pearl River. The Rockland County Department of Transportation is also adding additional Tappan Zee Express buses between Tarrytown and the Palisade Center Park and Ride in West Nyack.
It's scary, but I'm just going to have to continue to take it, and my route will probably be different going forward for the next couple of weeks.
Congresswoman Nita Lowey says an in-depth investigation is underway.
It is very disturbing that there were so many casualties, and it certainly appears that the engineer didn't slow down. But again, you can't come to any conclusions until the investigation is concluded.
And as you look around the parking lot here, as well as the commuter lot across the street, you can see there are just dozens of cars. I'm sure each driver will have a different story about what exactly happened to them after they boarded their normal train to commute to work this morning. In Nanuet, Carolyn Fortino, FiOS 1 News.
And of course, you can stay with FiOS 1 News for all the transportation developments, as well as obviously investigation for people as they make the trip into New York and into New Jersey tomorrow, as obviously routes will be impacted here. But you heard from Congressman Lowy. There are additional questions as to not just what happened today, and certainly that investigation will take its time, but could there have been more here that could have been done to prevent an event like this from happening? It's hardly the first accident that we've seen with trains, even in our region. Moreover, there is technology that's available that has yet to be implemented that very well may have prevented today. Earlier today, I spoke with Congressman Sean Patrick Maloney. He's a Democrat from New York's Hudson Valley, and he serves on the Transportation Committee. This has all the hallmarks, Congressman, and we are still waiting, obviously, for more of the investigation, but it reminds us of what happened in Spuyten-Duyvil. It reminds us what happened last May on that Amtrak train. Again, people died in those, and then a certain thing called PTC, or if you can speak about the positive train control. Explain to our audience what that is and why it shouldn't just be theory, it should be practice. Certain places have implemented it, and certain places, like we know with New Jersey Transit, haven't.
Right. Well, it's very simple technology, which is Wi-Fi and GPS, that allows us to stop trains remotely, automatically, if there's a problem with the operator. So whatever the reason is, whether it's human error or a health problem or terrorism, we want to be able to stop trains that are going too fast, that are either going to hit something on a rail crossing, derail at a high hazard curve, or in this case, blow into a station and cause great destruction and death. We can do that. Now, here's what's going on. I wrote legislation that passed the Congress in 2015 that opens up a $35 billion source of federal financing to transportation systems to implement positive train control. Right now, Metro North, through that program, it's called the Railroad Rehabilitation Improvement Financing Program, RIF. Right now, Metro North has accessed $1 billion of financing, which is going to allow it to have this technology, positive train control, on Metro North and Long Island Railroad within 18 months. That's a state getting its act together. New Jersey, unfortunately, has done almost nothing. They issued a plan in 2011 that said by the end of 2014, they would have 22% of their system using positive train control. And as of today, 2 years after their own deadline, they have exactly 0% of their system with PTC. So it's an abject failure by New Jersey Transit. And it stands in stark relief to what Governor Cuomo and Metro North have been doing here in New York.
There has been other safety measures that have been discussed but haven't been implemented. The idea, and we don't know what happened, but if a conductor passes out, a conductor has a heart attack, a conductor falls asleep here, in addition to the software you talked about that is being implemented in some places and others haven't caught up, what about a second conductor in there? Or what about a camera that if there was a camera recording what would happen, we would know as we're sitting here exactly what the cause was of this. But I know the union opposed it in the second instance. In the first instance, people don't want to spend the money. What about those initiatives in addition to, not in lieu of, PTC?
Well, that's exactly why I passed a second piece of legislation called the Derailment Prevention Act, which is now law, which requires some common sense, which doesn't cost a lot of money. And it's just what you said. We want multiple redundant safety procedures in place so that at certain high hazard curves, we always have a plan to slow the trains down. These are curves where you have a change of 20 miles an hour or more in the speed of the train. See, the thing about train tracks is they don't change one day to the next. They're in the same place. We know where the high hazard curves are. We know where the danger spots are. And we can have better procedures like having 2 engineers in the cabin at certain points along the way. That needs to be required. And we can do other things like dead man switches and alerter switches, which should be in place in all cars. We found out after Spuyten-Duyvil they're in one end of the Metro North locomotives, but not the other. And those trains get pushed or pulled depending on whether they're going north or south. So common sense goes a long way, but it's not a substitute for having modern technology that will allow us to stop these trains remotely when there's a human error or a terrorist action or some other problem.
Finally, I know Congress appropriated the money. It's just an issue of a state, asking for it and implementing it. But nonetheless, if we're sitting here a year from now and NJT still hasn't gotten their act together, is there something Washington can do to mandate it?
Yes, and there are new penalties and new reporting requirements in the legislation we passed last year. The Federal Railroad Administration under Sarah Feinberg is doing a very good job at staying on top of these systems now because we've let them slide too long. And the fact is, New Jersey Transit is not going to be ready. Metro North will meet the 2018 deadline because they accessed, under the plan I implemented, $1 billion of federal financing. There are also, by the way, in the highway bill we passed last fall, there are grants, $225 million of grants available to these systems. So through some combination of grants and low interest loan programs, these authorities can implement this technology. They have to have the will to do it and the mandate from their governors.
Congressman, I do appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, of course, we're going to keep you updated throughout the evening on Fox through all the latest developments here, and also the conditions of those casualties, and moreover, how this investigation will proceed going forward. But there is technology that could prevent this, and it's a mystery to me, at least, when the funding's made available, why states won't A, access it, and then B, implement these procedures. We don't have to have all these stories. Again, let's let the facts play out here, but if they're preventable, it's very maddening. Okay, coming up next, everyone, we will transition to politics, and we'll take a look at how the debate has impacted the presidential race and also the latest controversy involving you-know-who, one Donald Trump.